This week, we're looking at a Prismatic Titan build with an exotic many people forget about or don't really care about, and that is Second Chance. This exotic is one of my favorites on regular Void Titan, and is honestly even better with Prismatic. With this build, we will be able to make use of Void Overshields, Radiant, and Amplify. We'll also be able to weaken targets, freeze them, and suspend them. But before we get into all that, don't forget to subscribe as it helps me out a ton. Like the video to help the algorithm push this to people who may be interested, and of course comment what you think about this build and what you want to see down below. With all that being said, let's get into this. As I mentioned, we're looking at the Titan Exotic Arms Second Chance, which comes with the exotic trait Myrmidon's Reach. Gain a second charge of your shield throw melee. Your shield throw melee now weakens targets and becomes shield piercing stunning barrier champions. When you stun a barrier champion with your shield throw melee, you regain a melee charge. This exotic has been a favorite of mine for quite some time. We get a second throwing shield, which is slightly better than what it used to be, but their tracking is still not all that great. I think it needs stronger tracking after hitting targets, allowing it to bounce better in groups. The weaken that it applies is super nice, as it can apply to everything, and we have two of these shields to throw, meaning we can weaken a lot of things, and that pairs nicely with expanding Abyss and Void Hegemony off of the artifact, which plays a huge part in this build. As for the anti-barrier part, it's simple. One shield toss pops the barrier and weakens it, allowing us to burn that champion very quickly, and it is honestly one of my favorite things to use in Grandmasters. At least it used to be. It still is. I really haven't tested this in Grandmasters just yet, but I know that it used to be a favorite of mine on regular Void Titan in Grandmaster, so I'm very excited to see how it plays out inside of a Grandmaster with Prismatic Titan. As for weapons, I tried Kvostov to try and make it more of a ahaha everything bounces and ricochets kind of build, and it was really good. I actually really liked using Kvostov for this playstyle, but for what I wanted, a near never-ending supply of shields, we went with the classic tried and true Monte Carlo, as this auto rifle allows us to get melee energy back for just hitting targets, giving us a chance to get a full charge back when defeating a target. This is perfect for this build and makes it so we don't have to run melee kickstart. For your energy, you can run whatever you want. I used Indebted Kindness for the jolt that it does, and for heavy, I just use Edge Transit as Void. It plays into the weaken, it plays into the artifact. I also hear that the new seasonal rocket launcher is also a very good option if you don't want to run a grenade launcher. For class setup, since we're on Prismatic, let's go over everything. For super, we have Twilight Arsenal. I love this super. Apparently it is getting or already got a buff. I'm not 100% sure the timeline on this, but again, probably one of my favorite supers to run for Prismatic, especially since we are running a Void based melee. We'll just throw these axes and add a little extra to it. For me, I am taking the regular barricade, Riley barricade, whatever you want to call it, but you can take thruster if you want. We have shackle grenades because suspending targets is super nice to have, and then shield through because it is tied directly into our exotic. Our first aspect we're taking is going to be knockout. Critically wounding a target or breaking their shield infuses your melee attacks with arc energy and increases your melee range and damage for a short time. Defeating targets with melee attacks make you amplified and restores a portion of your health. Defeating more powerful combatants increases the amount of health restored. This is just going to give us some extra survivability. We're going to get our health back every time we defeat something with our shield throw, plus this will make us amplified, which is going to help when we go over the artifact mods. For our second aspect, we're going to take Diamond Lance. Shatter or defeat targets with abilities or stasis weapons to create a stasis lance. Throw the lance to freeze targets on impact, or slam the lance into the ground to freeze targets in a small area. Honestly, I just love Diamond Lance, and being able to make them from everything we do on Prismatic is amazing. These are going to help us keep things locked down. Paired with our shackle grenades, it is going to pair well with our first fragment. Facet of Courage. Your Arc, Solar, and Void abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted with darkness debuffs with a +10 to Arc Discipline. Targets that are suspended or frozen are being afflicted by a darkness debuff, meaning our throwing shield will deal extra damage to those targets, and with the case of suspending targets, we have a higher chance to hit multiple targets as they are suspended, and the shield hopefully can bounce a little better between them. Facet of Blessing. Melee final blow start health regeneration, while Transcendent, melee final blow start health regeneration for you and nearby allies. With Knockout, we just get a chunk of health, so paired with this, we can also get some of that health regeneration, which is super nice to have with this build, and I found it to be super helpful in most situations. Facet of Dawn, powered melee hits against targets make you radiant. Powered melee final blows make you and nearby allies radiant with a -10 to our strength. We're going to be tossing shields constantly, and with radiant orbs off the artifact mod, we're basically going to be radiant at all times, giving us that nice little buff to weapon damage on top of dealing that extra damage to weakened targets. Facet of Purpose, picking up an orb of power grants either amplified, restoration, frost armor, woven mail, or an overshield based on the damage type of your equipped super with a -10 to recovery. Our orb creation isn't bad with this build by any means, so we can get those void overshields from this very consistently. I also ran this with Behemoth, the super from Stasis, for frost armor, and it was also really good. But to be honest, I kind of swap my super depending on the surge, so my kinetic weapons get their 25% buff because we're also taking Facet of Grace. Defeating targets with kinetic weapons grants you bonus transcendent energy. Defeating targets with your super grants you and nearby allies bonus transcendent energy with a -10 to our resilience. Monte Carlo is a kinetic weapon, and it is our main weapon for damaging and defeating targets. So with this, we can build up our transcendence very quickly, which will allow us to just toss shields like we had a Sentinel Shield super from our Void subclass, but instead now we are on Prismatic, which means we get all the benefits from Prismatic while still being able to toss our shields everywhere. For our armor mod, starting with our helmet, I just took double kinetic siphon mods to make better orbs from Monte Carlo and hands-on to get more super energy back from defeating targets with our melees. For arms, we have heavy-handed for orb creation from melee defeats, and then we have momentum transfer and impact induction so we can rotate our abilities more efficiently. For chest, I just took my resist mods. You can change these for whatever you need. I always recommend these. They're super nice to have. For legs, we have recuperation for more healing, and then I took double kinetic surges so Monte Carlo can do more damage, feeding into Facet of Grace, giving us our transcendence back even faster. On our mark, we have Reaper for orb creation, powerful attraction to pull orbs to us, and then outreach to top off any melee energy we may need. For our artifact, you really just need to take Void Hegemony, Radiant Orbs, Galvanic Armor, Expanding Abyss, and Shield Crush to get all the benefits from those. And for stats, the main focus should be Resilience and Strength for survivability and melee uptime, then Recovery and Discipline for health regeneration and grenade uptime, and then Mobility and Intellect, as again, as a Titan, Mobility isn't really the top option for you to pick, and we're going to get our super back really fast with all the shields we throw, so Intellect also isn't super crazy needed. Overall, I think this build is really good. Again, I haven't had the chance to test it in a Grandmaster setting yet, as at the end of last week and the beginning of this week, I had to attend a funeral and I had a job interview and all the stuff that goes along with that, so I haven't had a chance to fully test it in a Grandmaster setting. Something that I'll be doing this week and probably leaving a comment on this video for to let you know my experiences with this in a Grandmaster. But again, I think this build is really good. If you have been struggling with Prismatic Titan and trying to find a way to play it and still have it be enjoyable and still have it be pretty decent, highly recommend using this build. I will leave the dim link down in the description so you can grab that, you can go use it and tell me what you think about it, what you changed about it, because I know everybody plays this game a little differently. But again, super fun build. It's really fun. You don't have to use Monte Carlo. Again, Kvostov was also a very solid option that I used for a little while. But with all that being said, that is the end of our video. A little shorter than normal, but still got all the information out that I needed to get out. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video.